You know that jacket you love, or those shoes you wear pretty much every single day? Well, they have been on an absolutely massive journey before they ever got to you. A journey that starts way back in fields and farms and mines all across the world. But what if that journey is getting riskier? So risky, in fact, that it could mean your favorite brands might not be around for much longer. Let's trace that path and figure out what's going on.
It seems like a simple question, right? But the answer, well, it unravels this incredibly complex global story. It's a story of agriculture and manufacturing and logistics. And right now, that story is facing some serious new challenges that are, quite literally, threatening the very fabric of the fashion industry.
So the first thing we really need to get our heads around is that the entire fashion industry is built on a supply chain that's way more fragile than you'd probably think.
I mean, just look at these. These are the absolute building blocks of the industry. You've got the cotton in our t-shirts, the rubber on the soles of our sneakers. These materials are the lifeblood, and they're sourced from every corner of the planet. Take them away, and the fashion world just stops.
Here's the catch. The journey for these materials is getting more and more dangerous. There are these kind of invisible threats hiding out in the open, and they have the power to disrupt this entire system and, well, leave our closets pretty empty.
And these are the threats we're talking about. We're seeing climate change cause these insane droughts in places that grow a lot of cotton, which suddenly makes it a much scarcer resource. Then you have debates over how land is used, regional conflicts that can completely halt shipments, and on top of all that, new environmental rules are adding another layer of complexity. It's a lot.
Which, of course, leads to the billion-dollar question. In a web this complicated, how can anyone, from the brand making the clothes to the investor putting money into that brand, get a clear picture of what's going on? How do you manage risks that you can't even see?
Well, this is where a standardized approach becomes a real game changer. There's a framework for getting some clarity here, and it's called the SASB standards. That stands for the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board.
So the SASB standards are now overseen by the IFRS Foundation. You can think of them as the global referees for accounting standards, and their whole purpose here is to create a common language. They help companies talk about their sustainability risks in a way that's clear, consistent, and, this is the key part, financially relevant.
So what are they really? Think of them as a set of rules, but tailored to each specific industry. For apparel companies, it's like a clear guide on exactly what sustainability info they need to share with their investors. It's almost like a sustainability X-ray, you know? It shows you all the hidden risks that a normal financial report would totally miss.
And these standards get super detailed. For the apparel world, they really zero in on the 4 areas that matter most to the bottom line.
So the standard covers the whole shebang. Everything from the chemicals used in dyes, which can affect our health and the environment, all the way to labor conditions in factories, which is obviously a huge social issue. But for our story today, we're going to zoom in on that 4th one, the one that takes us right back to the beginning of the journey, raw materials sourcing.
This is where the standard really gets to the heart of the problem, that fragile supply chain we were just talking about.
And the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, listen to this. This is a direct quote from the standard itself. It makes the connection crystal clear. This isn't just about being green or feeling good. It's about financial stability. If you don't manage your raw materials properly, it can directly wreck your bottom line.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in practice? How does a standard like this turn a vague, scary risk into something you can actually get your hands around and manage?
Well, it forces companies to get really specific. Let's just use cotton as an example. First, a company has to identify it as a priority material. Simple enough. Then, they have to name the specific environmental thing that's threatening it, like high water stress. Next, they connect that problem to a concrete business risk, like, say, prices going haywire. And finally, they have to spell out their strategy to deal with it, like sourcing more certified organic or better cotton.
And here's the thing, it's not just about making promises. They actually have to back it up with hard numbers. The standard requires them to report the actual amounts they're buying and what percentage is certified versus conventional. This makes their progress totally measurable and keeps them accountable. No more hiding.
So let's zoom out. What does all of this mean for the big picture? Why is having a standard like this such a massive deal for the entire fashion industry?
Well, without standards, it was kind of the Wild West. You had all these hidden risks, these vague feel-good claims that were impossible to prove. Investors were just guessing. But with standards, you get transparency. You get data you can actually use to compare one company to another. It shifts the whole industry from just reacting to crises after they happen to proactively managing risk before it blows up.
At the end of the day, this isn't just a boring reporting exercise. It's a powerful tool for building stronger, more resilient businesses. It helps create an industry where transparency isn't just a buzzword they throw around, but a core part of how they operate.
So the next time you look at a price tag, it's worth asking yourself, what's the real story behind this number? Because in a world with growing environmental and social pressures, the true cost of our clothes is something we just can't afford to ignore anymore.